So this video will only help you if you're a young man who wants to give more status and more respect, but you're not a complete fucking coward, right? And your attention span is not already fucking completely fucked up, right? And you can actually focus on a slightly longer video like this. When I was in 6th grade and 7th grade, all the way up to 8th and 9th grade, so now I'm in year 10, right? I was being pushed around and laughed at and picked on quite a bit. Like, for example, some kids in my school, they would approach me and ask me some stupid ass question, like about fucking Andrew Tate or some shit. Like, what do you think about Andrew Tate? And like, they caught me like binge watching Andrew Tate's podcast, like throughout the whole, like fucking the whole school year, right? And they were like kind of making fun of me because they're fucking peons. And they don't understand what the fuck Andrew Tate is talking about, right? But it was nagging on me, like, because I didn't know what the fuck to do. And the reason that shit like happened at all was just because of my status. Like, I didn't have any, like, I was not really like an omega, like at the bottom of the barrel like type of guy, but I was somewhere around like the top, like the lower like 75%, right? And like, if you can imagine, there's a top 1%, the 25, 50, and 75 on 100, and 100 is the worst. And I was about in the 75% range, at least before I'd come into puberty, right? And it made me a bit insecure, right? Because I wanted to gain the approval of the other kids, right? Because I wasn't just a normal like emotional kid like the other guys, right? They're controlled by their emotions and their instincts and all that stuff. And one of the strongest instincts and one of the strongest emotional triggers is social connection. Like, of course, the human animal is designed fucking voice cracks, man, is designed to live in a pack of like 150 people. And if you were cast out from the tribe, then you would have nothing, like you wouldn't be able to fucking survive on your own, right? So that's why like a lot of people, they seek the approval of strangers so fucking desperately, right? And I was absolutely and utterly one of them, right? At least before I discovered the red pillars of improvement and everything, right? And there was one quite like, I look back at it now with like embarrassment, of course, but at that time I didn't really know what the fuck to do else, right? And like those kids, they knew that I could burp like extremely loudly on command whenever I wanted to, and they used to ask me to burp as loudly as I could, and they got their fucking little phone outs and with their gay ass Snapchat and took a little, they fucking recorded me like fucking 5 guys standing like this with their fucking phone, recording me burping like a fucking monster, and then they saved it to their little fucking gay ass memories of Snapchat and laughed their asses off. And I tried to gain status through doing that shit, but like, because I felt that I needed to prove myself to them in that way. And it like I at first, like, because I was positively reinforced because I made them laugh, and oftentimes when you make people laugh, that's a sign that they will like you, right? But that's not how it works, because I was just fucking doing a bunch of self-deprecating jokes, and also not just burping but other stuff, right? And basically making fun of myself, right? And taking risks for their laughter, basically. And I was seeing status and the way to gain status in a completely like false way, like just completely in a wrong way, right? Because I got confused with short-term and long-term status, because in the short term I was the center of attention. Everyone was laughing at me, just handshaking me or some shit, right? And it telling me how funny it is or some bullshit, right? But that's just in the short term. In the long term, I'm a fucking fool, right? They think of me as a fucking like clown or fool, right? And is that who you want to be, a clown or fool? Of course not. You want people to respect you, like actually, not just fucking laugh when you do some fucking weird shit. And oftentimes when you don't really have any natural status, self-deprecation, like you trade your own honor for temporary status or temporary attention. And it's just so like, don't go down that fucking route, man. Just don't try to be that like funny guy and make jokes about your own race or some bullshit. Like I watched a guy called Hamza, and he talked about when he was a bit younger, and he would basically call himself like he would basically make fun of his ethnicity, like himself, just to make the other kids laugh. And like, you don't want to be doing that shit, bro, right? Like, it's very self-explanatory, but still, like, I see a bunch of kids, including myself, like a couple of years ago, like I did that shit all of the fucking time. But it was in the fall, like, what the fuck do you call it? The fall, the autumn, I don't know what fucking British and American people call it, but you know, let's say the autumn, right? It was the autumn of 2022 when Andrew Tate first popped off, like big time, right? And his words just fucking they clicked with me, right? And I binge watch all of his fucking content, like all of his podcasts, all day fucking long, and literally rewired my whole like way of thinking, which I'm extremely grateful today, right? And it was when I discovered Andrew Tate and the Red Pill and Sigma Male grind stuff, and respecting yourself and not taking fucking bullshit from other people, not taking disrespect and stuff like that. When I started doing boxing at the time, because I try to become like a more badass type dude, right? You understand? And I started doing boxing, like right now, like a year ago, some shit. Like it took a while for me to see the light that martial arts was the way to go, right? But eventually I started going to my local weightlifting gym and just fucking punch at the bag. And then I signed up to a proper like boxing gym in my area. And after I did that shit and I got into puberty a bit more, I got a bit stronger. I lowered my eyebrows a bit on a regular basis, and people knew that I could fight, that I wasn't some fucking bitch anymore, right? Then I was just not pushed around like at all, and I wasn't laughed at the same. I wasn't picked on. None of that bullshit was haunting me as it was when I was trying to like fucking self-deprecate in order to gain approval, right? And it's just a fucking night and day difference. And this is what boxing taught me, man. Like if you respect yourself, and you make sure that you are physically capable, and that you're not making a fool of yourself, and that you're a bit like combat ready. You don't have to go around look like grumpy or some shit, but you don't need to be going around and laughing all of the fucking time and having this little bitch ass smile on your face like this, like normal people have, right? And you don't necessarily want to be doing this shit. And boxing taught me this, because I looked at the other guys I looked at the other guys and I saw in them like, bro, you can't even fucking fight. Like, what, bro? You're not gonna pick on me if I can beat the living shit out of you. Not necessarily that I'm gonna do it, right? But it's just the capability for violence that is there, that is underlying. And right now, like, people know I can fight. People know I can do boxing, right? I can throw punches like 100 times better than they can. Like, dude, we were having in school, we were having like PE sessions, and we were actually doing boxing on one of the sessions in class. And I saw the other guys, like they were fucking useless, bro. Like it's honestly like unbelievable. Like how the fuck can you just fucking walk around in the world like a fucking bumbling idiot? You can't even throw a punch. Like, come on, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you? But this is what the fuck's happened in all of our childhoods when we were growing up, right? And our male aggression has been stomped the fuck out of us, right? And you're taught not to stand up for yourself. You're taught to go to the authority, the fucking teacher, and you go to them if you're being picked on. And whenever you stand up against for example, if when you were younger, you stood up against your parents who shouted at you or some shit, you were trained not to question authority figures. Like in at home, if your parents shout at you and then you speak up against them, and then they shout at you more, and they kind of defeat you in that sense. And also in school, right? When if you try to do anything else but what the teacher tells you, then it's like they're gonna fucking call your parents or some shit, right? And it conditions you to be a little weak as beta male, because you're taught not to value physical capability at all, and not to question authorities, which is just brain dead. Like, bro, how the fuck do you think the Nazis got power in Germany in the 1930s? They got everyone you can imagine all the masses in Germany, and they got all of them to stop questioning what the fuck the Nazis were saying. Like, do you get that shit? That's how the real like atrocities of the world come about. Like, you can probably imagine the scenario on when you and your boys were like 9 years old on the playground, or like fucking even younger than that, like fucking 6, 7. You were on the playground and you were wrestling, right? And then the fat, like, female obese teacher comes to you and tells you boys to tone it down a bit, to stop being so aggressive, so loud, so boisterous, all that stuff. And they stomp the male aggression, the masculine energy out of you from a very young age. And then you are conditioned and you learn to seek status through doing dumb shit like I did, or even worse, like going to parties and taking a bunch of drugs or alcohol, trying to do stupid shit like that, or self-deprecating yourself, right? And you try to gain status that way instead of just actually being someone worth respecting and getting people's respect through physical capability and achievement and competence and capability and all that stuff, right? Because the whole like fighting, like the ability to fight is never taught in the education system, like never. They never tell you that it's one of the like primary underlying factors of all interactions in amongst humans, right? Because Tate said it, like everything is underpinned by violence. Like if you have a car, you probably don't have a car, right? But let's say you had a car and you go to a parking lot and you park there, and then you get a little fine, right? And the little yellow, and I don't know if it's yellow in the other countries, but in Sweden it's yellow. This little ticket, basically telling you that you gotta pay them fucking a few $100s or some shit, right? And if you were not to pay that shit, they would send you letters. They would double it, triple it, 10x it. Then the fucking what's this called? The guy who comes, like a guy comes home to you from the government who wants your money or some shit. I can't remember what his name is, but you can probably get what I'm saying. And he comes home to you and you tell him to get fucked as well. And then what happens is that the police come home to you and you tell them to get fucked because they try to fucking, they tell you to come with them. And then what happens? Violence happens. They take their gun or their other fucking weapons and they literally force you, and they drag your ass to the fucking police station because you didn't pay a fucking fine. And people don't notice this shit. Like, violence it's underlying everything. So why not be fucking good at it? Not that you're gonna go around and fucking beat people up on the street. Of course not. That's not what I'm talking about. That's absolutely it's fucking stupid. Like, why the fuck would you? Why would you trigger street fights? Like, it's just you don't gain anything from it. It's absolutely idiotic in my opinion. But when you start to actually like grasp the concept of fighting and violence overall, and when you go to your local boxing gym and do some sparring rounds, like this is what happens. First of all, your confidence is massively upgraded. So for example, your ability to hold eye contact, your body language, your ability to speak with people, like just speak in front of other people. Like for example, if you were to do a presentation in front of, in school or presentations in front of the whole class, if the people you were doing the presentation in front of were 5-year-olds, how nervous do you think you would be? Probably not fucking nervous at all, right? But let's say those people were all UFC fighters. You would probably be a bit more nervous, like if that were the case, right? Why? Because they're more physically capable, and your primal, like your caveman brain is evaluating the situation. Like if you fuck up in front of all these people in the presentation, the likelihood that a confrontation would erupt is much fucking higher than if there's like a bunch of 5-year-olds. Nothing's gonna fucking happen, of course, right? So for example, when I was in the PE class and I saw the other guys trying to do some fucking pad work, right? I saw them, like, they were absolutely terrible. They were useless. Like, how the fuck am I gonna be nervous when I'm speaking to them, right? And if someone picks at you, right, you can use your confidence there because you know what abilities you have. You know that you can easily beat the fuck out of them, right? Not saying that that's always the best move on the chessboard, of course not, but you always know that you can, right? Because it's always in the back of your mind. Like us as men, we constantly evaluate, like, is this person a one-punch issue? Like, can we handle this person easily if it were to come to a physical confrontation, to an altercation, right? We always evaluate it. Like, you will speak differently to a 7-foot man than a 5-foot man. That's just how it is, right? Of course, it's just like people, they don't like if I were to say this shit to some more normal guy on the street, he would act like if he was stupid or some shit. But everyone knows this intrinsically. The second thing that happens when you start doing martial arts, so in my instance, like I'm doing boxing, right, just normal boxing, is that it sets a new standard for what you care about. Like, you stop caring about bullshit. It's the juxtaposition. So if I tell you the number $100,000, like, you literally think about the number $100,000, and then I tell you $1,000, right? It seems small, right? But as opposed to me saying, firstly, $10. Think about $10, something you could buy for $10, and they think about $1,000. It's just, like, it seems a bit much larger, like in the second example, because I'm comparing it to something much smaller. And the reason that you stop caring about shit when you start doing martial art, especially when you're doing striking, like boxing or Muay Thai, some shit, right? You get punched in the face. You get punched in the face, right? That's the thing. And when you get punched in the face on a regular basis, you just don't care. Like, when you're doing this sweaty ass, like fucking, you're drenched in sweat, like a fucking badass, like hard workouts. Like it's very exhausting, right? To do martial arts, at least if you're trying, if you're doing real martial arts, not some fucking sport jiu-jitsu or some bullshit. If you're doing real martial arts, it's absolutely and utterly exhausting. And when you do that stuff on a regular basis, things like they just don't bother you as much, especially people's opinions. Like for example, if you fuck up an exam and your parents are mad or some shit, or you or the floor in your school is slippery and you fall over and some kids laugh at you, like who cares? Like who the fuck cares? Like if someone leaves a mean comment on the internet on one of your videos, like why the fuck would you care? Like it's just a new standard, right? And everything above it, like for example, here's the old standard, everything above it we deem as something that should be taken into consideration, aka that we care about it. And then when the standard goes from here to here, what happens? All this, the delta between them, like the stuff, the space between them, all that stuff just goes out the window. You don't give a fuck about it anymore. And what happens when you do that shit, when that occurs, is that you get to keep all of that like mental space, mental real estate, and put it to stuff that actually matters. Like if I were constantly overthinking about some other bullshit when I was trying to do this video, of course the quality would significantly decrease, right? Because I'm distracted. That's the thing. When you get rid of all these bullshit thoughts, you can actually focus on what actually matters. Like for example, if you're in the gym and you like mid-set, you're doing like some shoulder press or some shit, and mid-set you just start overthinking about some stuff. Oh, that guy, he looked weird at me. Fucking, I can't even speak to him, but he looked weird at me yesterday. Like, and you're trying to overthink that stuff. Like that girl, I should have said this to her. Like, come on, bro. Don't stop caring. Just focus on the real important stuff. And that's what's enabled when you do martial arts. You get punched in the fucking face, right? And you just don't care about anything else, basically. And that's not to say that we should be amateurs, that we shouldn't be professionals, right? Of course, if we slip on the floor, that should infuriate us. That should enrage us. Of course, it's unacceptable to be unprofessional in that manner. But we shouldn't actually, like, we should care about us, right? We should care about us slipping on the floor. That's unprofessional, that's like unacceptable. But I don't think we should care about what other people think about when they see us fall. So the third benefit is when it comes to different character traits. So for example, bravery and discipline. You would probably want to be able to call yourself a disciplined man, or a brave man, right? But there's a price tag for that shit. And in all other sports, like outside of martial arts, like for example, we have football, hockey, tennis, rugby, like basically all of them. They don't actually teach you anything when it comes to like combat. When it comes to actually, like, it's not scary to go on a fucking football field. Like it's not even that hard. And people play it for fun. Like martial arts is not to be played for fun. Like if you enjoy it, great, right? But that's not the main reason that like people, like for example myself, that's not the main reason I'm doing martial arts. It's for my character development. Because I'll be honest with you, bro, like a lot of fucking times when it comes to like my boxing practices, it's not fun at all. It's really not fun. But afterwards is extremely fulfilling. The greater the suffering, the greater the peace, right? But the thing with developing character traits like discipline and bravery and like traits we want to have, right, is that we can only do that shit when we are deprived of a motivation. Like for example, if going to the gym might have been hard in the beginning, it might have required discipline in the beginning, and then you were leveling up your discipline ability, right? Your trait of discipline. But when it stagnates and you no longer need discipline to go to the gym because you kind of enjoy it, it's kind of fun, you know, you just go there and fucking lift some weights, man. When that occurs, you're not training your discipline because because discipline is doing something that you're not motivated to do, right? Very simple. But if you go to the gym and you're motivated to go there, that's not fucking discipline, bro. Of course it's not. That's not discipline. And the same with bravery. If you do stuff, for example, if you spar with someone in boxing and you like if someone you are better than, for example myself sometimes, like that's not going to require bravery of me. Something that would require bravery would be something that I am afraid of. Like for example, if I were to spar the best guy in the entire gym, right, that would be something that required bravery of myself, right? And in no other sports, like like basically no other places are as effective as martial arts gyms, especially when it comes to striking, like Muay Thai, boxing or kickboxing or MMA. When it comes to like actually developing bravery and discipline, at least in my experience. Because all of us want these traits, we want discipline, we want bravery, but are we willing to pay the price? Because there's a price tag for all traits. Like for example, if you were to create a very, very disciplined man, Would you let him do everything he wanted to do, and would you allow him to slack and not do the stuff that he didn't want to do, right? You probably would. If you would want a brave man, would you want him to overcome no fear? Of course not. You would want him to overcome as much fear as humanly possible, right? So we do want the outcome. It's just the process that is it's arduous and it's tedious, right? Of course, that's with everything. But everyone wants the traits. Everyone wants to be disciplined and brave. But it's not the goals that make you unique, right? It's your ability and your willingness to actually commit to the goal and do the stuff that actually gets you the results in the end that makes you unique. AKA just your willingness to pay the price. And doing martial arts is a very effective and efficient way, in my opinion, to just pay the price for discipline and bravery, right? Because like if you're doing football or some other stuff, just going to the gym, that requires zero bravery and zero discipline. Like, bro, come on. Because when you're at the boxing gym and you've had a brutal session, like you've done fucking a bunch of shadow boxing, a bunch of bag work, a bunch of speed bag, a bunch of fucking you've jumped a bunch of ropes, you've skipped, and then a guy comes up to you and asks you to spar. Like, you're not gonna be a pussy like in that situation, right? You're gonna spar with him. You're not gonna be a bitch, a coward, right? And that's when it actually counts. And you basically train that ability, that trait all of the time when you're in the martial arts gym. So this is what I need you to do, right? So first of all, we need to eliminate, like before we can actually get you into a martial arts gym, we need to eliminate the thought in your mind that tells you that it's too late to join a new sport, right? I had this myself, right? I started doing boxing when I was 15 and I was 16, and like, bro, I thought it was too late because when I was doing football like a few years ago, and hockey, and I started doing like hockey relatively late in comparison to all other people, right? And I was much worse than them, and I trained my mind to think in that way, right? Which is just very detrimental, because it's not how it works in a martial arts gym. You come in and you train with people who have trained as long as you have. It's not about age, right? It's not about age. It's just about ability. You can spar with someone who's when you go to the boxing gym, you can spar with someone who's 10 years old and he can fuck you up, man. Or you can spar with someone who's 20 years older than you, or fucking like 10 years older than you, and you could fuck the shit out of him, right? So it's not about age at all, right? You gotta eliminate the belief that's just a fucking excuse. Are you an excuse maker? No, right? Great. So fuck that shit. So this is what I actually need you to do when it comes to like actionable, like your action plan, right? So first of all, you go onto Google Maps. Like you can open a new window or go into your computer, right? You can open Google Maps, and then you search for boxing or Muay Thai or MMA or martial arts in your area, like preferably a striking based martial art, not just like BJJ or wrestling, even though those are great, of course. But I don't think they're as effective for developing character traits and actually being able to use like in the street, like in potential altercations. Not that, of course, like disclaimer, don't fucking go around and start provoking people and start provoking altercations. It's very stupid. But if you have to defend yourself, then I am certain that boxing is going to be the best one, or like at least when you can box, right? Not just when you're on the ground, because you're not going to be on the ground with someone on the street, right? So you search for boxing, MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing, K1, something like that, and you look in you can look on the fucking map, right? And you can see the different like locations, and then you click on one. Perhaps you click on the one that comes up. There's a top search result or some shit, and then you go onto the web page, and there's most likely gonna be like a free session or like try out for $10 or some shit, and you literally just go there. Like, bro, if it's free, like, bro, what the fuck do you have that's gonna stop you? Nothing. It's just your own mind, your own cowardness, your own coward. What the fuck is it called? Cowardice, right? Your own cowardice. So, or you pay the fucking $10 to go there, and then you try them, right? And I would recommend you try at least 10 sessions to get the feel of it. And then if it's not for you, no worries, right? Then we figure that out at least. But I'm extremely certain that is gonna be for you. So you try it out, you see how everything works, and you see yourself making a little bit of progress, and you can see yourself like actually being good at this shit in a year or some shit, right? And then you sign up to that shit. If you live with your parents, you can probably speak with them And I would recommend you stop going to some bullshit sports like football or tennis or hockey or some shit if you're doing that bullshit. And just focus on martial arts. Just literally no reason to do anything. Like, why the fuck would you do football? Are you gonna be a professional football player? No. So why the fuck are you going this? Waste of time, waste of attention, waste of energy. Martial arts, bomb, easy, right?